Dismissive avoidants do at times invest in long-term romantic relationships, and dismissive avoidants also do at times end up sticking around for the long haul. But this has so much to do with whether or not this individual is willing to do the work internally enough to become comfortable with vulnerability, which is literally a necessary ingredient to sustain a long-term relationship. And a lot of times, unfortunately, a dismissive avoidant gets into a position where they're just not willing to do that work because they're not at that place yet in their lives and they're prioritizing other things. And so in today's video, I want to break down 5 major signs a dismissive avoidant isn't planning on sticking around for the long haul so that you can understand these things, look out for these different red flags. And then what we're going to talk about at the end of this video is how you can approach these things and what you can actually do if you are either an anxious attachment style yourself or a fearful avoidant. So number one, okay, one of the biggest first signs that you'll see that somebody's not likely to stick around is as a dismissive avoidant if they are avoiding emotional depth. Because here's the kicker. Dismissive avoidants aren't usually the most superficial people. They prefer to have some degree of depth. Now, usually they start off wanting like intellectual depth with somebody because it feels safer to relate there than actual emotional depth. But if they are literally never sharing things with you, deeply about their opinions, deeply about any of their emotions, like at least with a dismissive avoidant, just to be super clear, you will see them slowly open up more and more. It'll just be a lot slower of a burn, right? It's like they're kind of de-thawing, but they're working towards slowly. Like you'll actually see the needle move and progress towards more emotional depth over time, but they'll start with intellectual depth. But if you were seeing like no depth in either place, if everything is just always like about fun and superficial and like you're not really building any foundational parts of connection, especially in the first 3 or 4 months, then it's a really big sign that they're probably not trying to do anything in order to invest in a long-term relationship. Okay, so I really want to like make that super clear. There's a difference between somebody just being slower moving, but you see the progress. It's like, imagine like somebody's sprinting 5 miles or somebody is, walking or slowly jogging 5 miles. You're still going to see them they're moving along the 5 miles, right? Like they're getting further along the path. But somebody who is not interested, they're really not even taking many steps on that 5-mile path. They're staying in the first like 100 meters all the time. Okay, so that's what I want you to think about. It's when maybe slower moving if they're dismissive avoidant instead of like a secure person or an AP or a fearful avoidant, but there's still movement. If you're not seeing movement with depth in emotional pillar or intellectual pillar, really important sign to pay attention to. One of the biggest. I'll save the other biggest as number 5, but just one of the biggest here for sure. Okay. Number 2, if a dismissive avoidant is not asking you about yourself, okay? Dismissive avoidants are very strong vetters. If they think that they might be interested in somebody, they don't like to waste their time. So what they'll do is, this is so true of like every dismissive avoidant. If they're interested in you, they're going to ask you meaningful questions. They may not share very openly or quickly themselves, but they'll ask you meaningful questions. And you'll get the idea that these questions are basically intended to vet if you could be a good partner. So you'll hear them ask you about, maybe what you're looking for or when your last relationship was. Or they'll, even if they don't ask straight out because they can feel a little vulnerable asking, they will allude to the things to push on those topics. So they might say things like, oh yeah, I haven't dated anybody in a while. And they'll kind of leave it open-ended to share, to kind of see how you'll respond to that. And they're really trying to see if you could be a good partner. And they usually also vet for personality traits. Like they'll ask you if you're caring or, if you are somebody who likes to travel. Like they'll try to decipher and get to know your personality. If you're seeing none of that, again, really important sign that they may not be really interested in something longer term at all. Number 3, this is a really big one, is if you don't see them ever try to integrate you into their lives. And what I mean by this is that they're always kind of keeping things at like surface level. You've never really met any of their friends or any of their family. Yes, dismissive avoidants are slower moving when it comes to that, but they'll usually at least have you like meet some of their friends or like their group of people. Even if they spend a lot of time alone, like there will be some kind of connection there, or at least alluding to it. So maybe if it's in the first 3 months, they may not have you meet anybody right away, but usually by 6 months, there should be some kind of like you've at least met a friend or some meaningful person in their life. But in the first 3 months, they'll allude to it. They'll be like, oh yeah, we'll all go out with my old friends sometime one time soon, or they'll talk about things, or oh yeah, like maybe we'll all head up to see my family for a weekend sometime in the next few months. Like they'll open up those conversations, and those are important signs. But if you see again none of that, then really important thing to pay attention to. Now, before I get into number 4 and 5, I just want to mention briefly that we have a free gift that we are giving. It's a 7-day free trial to PDS, all of our courses. But on top of that, if you check out the trial, you literally get to keep the How to Heal from a Breakup course for life. So literally, it's a free gift. It's valued at over $250. You get to keep it for life. And it's because I wanted to do a gift and something that I thought was going to really be meaningful when it comes to healing. And it's a 2-hour course that goes into how to heal from a breakup. It goes into how people are affected by no contact, how to do no contact, how to get out of a situationship, how to see if the situationship is something that could actually evolve into something more, or if it's time to leave, and then how to really heal according to the 4 major pillars that cause grief after a breakup, how to really heal and move through those things as efficiently as possible. So literally, even if you're not going through a breakup now, if you ever do in the future, you have that course, and it's going to be a hugely supportive resource for you. We're just doing this for a very limited time, but it is a gift. So check it out with the link down below. Number 4, a dismissive avoidant rarely initiates connection or anything to do with future plans. If they never are like initiating future plans, hey, let's travel, or hey, let's do something next weekend, or oh, let's go to that concert next month. If you're not seeing any of that, again, they may do that more slowly than you would see with other attachment styles. But if somebody's interested, you're still going to see it. Okay. So they may not be doing it, maybe an anxious attachment style, you meet them and they're trying to share those things really quickly. Like, hey, let's go to a concert next month. And you've been on like 3 or 4 dates. But a dismissive avoidant, they're still going to do those things. They're just not going to do it in the first like couple weeks of dating. In the first 3 months, if they haven't ever talked about some kind of future plan or something to initiate in the future, even if they're not big planners, if they're not like initiating time to spend together or things you can do, or just putting them out there from time to time, again, not a really good sign, okay? And number 5, and then I really want to talk about what you can do if you're on the receiving end of this, okay? I'm going to give you 3 steps for what to do if you're anxious or fearful avoidant. But number 5 is that they will keep the relationship very open-ended for long periods of time, okay? I get it. Of course, dismissive avoidants tend to do this. They tend to move slower. But by 6 months, if a dismissive avoidant hasn't committed or tried to move things into a long-term relationship, there is a very good chance that they're not going to. I really would say, like, dismissive avoidants, if they're interested, they're going to make a commitment in that first 6 months. And they may have cold feet. They might make a commitment at 4 months or 5 months and then kind of pull back. But ultimately, they're going to pull back and then show up and continue on if they really want to do the work. And if there's somebody who is willing and is interested enough to try to be vulnerable, to try to move in that direction. But if you're post 6 months, and this person literally is still like terrified of talking about the relationship, keeping everything surface level. If you bring it up at all, they're like, yeah, well, let's see where it goes. Or, and they're deflecting constantly. There's a really good chance that they're not planning on sticking around for the long haul. Okay. So just really important to keep that in mind, because again, a dismissive avoidant, if they're interested, they will show up. They just have little barriers to showing up. They're a little slower moving. They can be a little bit more hesitant and a little bit critical of things sometimes, and a little bit perfectionistic before moving ahead with things, but they will if they're willing. Okay. So pay attention to those things. Now, if you're on the receiving end of these things, and let's say it's been 6 months and you're seeing like a lot of these things not show up, I'm going to tell you what you should do, whether you're an anxious attachment style or a fearful avoidant. And you're going to get scared when I tell you this, okay? But I want you to know that this is what a secure person does. This is how you honor yourself, okay? You would go and you would say to the person, hey, we've been dating for a little over 6 months. We've been hanging out, seeing each other, and I really enjoy your company. And I'm realizing that I need to, just out of my own self-respect to my own time and how I'm spending it, I need to know if this is something that you see having some kind of future, or if this is something where you just always plan to keep things really high level and just fun. Because with that information, I want to decide how I proceed and how I'm going to show up next. We don't have to have a conversation about this immediately, but I want you to give it some thought for a week or 2, and let's touch base about it in a little bit. And when you do it that way, you're not giving an ultimatum, you're not putting anybody on the spot, but you are honoring yourself. And guess what? Dismissive avoidants find that very attractive. Okay, all people find that very attractive at a subconscious level, by the way. But you have to be in a place, where a lot of anxious attachment styles and fearful avoidance, they both fall prey to this idea that like, I'm just going to be so amazing in the relationship and do so much for them and give so much to them and do all of these things for this person so that they then want to show up for me and I basically earn my worth and earn their love. But you know what? Dismissive avoidants don't even produce a whole lot of oxytocin from that kind of behavior. They produce more oxytocin when they are giving things to you, when they are showing up for you in a relationship, and when they're doing favors for you. That is when dismissive avoidant, particularly men, are actually producing a lot more of that oxytocin, which is the bonding neurochemical, which then makes somebody more likely to want to commit, along with vasopressin. So if you are not seeing any of that, and if you're always just like trying to give and do enough so that they then want to be with you, you're probably going in the opposite direction of where you should be. And most importantly, you're abandoning and betraying your own standards and your own self. So I really want you to have that conversation, honor your boundaries. And if the person at the end of that 2 weeks comes back to you and says, yeah, I just want to keep things high level, then that's time for you to walk away and then do that healing work, do that like overcoming the breakup work, and really think about what your standards need to be for future relationships so that you can honor yourself, so that you can have that. Now, of course, you could be a fearful avoidant and sitting here going, well, I just don't want anything right now. I truly just want something high level and I don't want anything with commitment at all. If that's the case, that's perfect for you then, right? That's you honoring your truth. But if you're secretly wanting something else and then staying for something that dishonors that, that's where we get into self-abandonment and self-betrayal. So just knowing that, take the time, really consider, have the conversation, and then you can proceed from there. Okay, I hope this is helpful for you. Thank you for stopping by and for watching. I hope you like, share, subscribe to this channel. Share this with anybody who might benefit, of course. And I hope you stick around and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Stay tuned.